Hello everybody, this is Azamar42 and I'm making this video as a response to Little Lori 219's video that was a response to Atheism versus Faith. I want to apologize for the poor video quality. I have like a $5 webcam and a really bad microphone. It's like 3 in the morning and I'm tired and scruffy and I just got off work, so like I said, I apologize. The first thing I wanted to go over after watching your video was though you did write it in the edit box that a lot of people, I think, have explained this to you at this point, is that atheists do not believe in a higher power. It's actually kind of the defining characteristic of atheism. Because atheism is not, it's not a belief, it's not a religion, it's not a faith. Atheism is simply non-belief in God or gods, belief in no deities, right? It's not really a positive statement. All it is saying that you do not believe any propositions of the supernatural. So, like myself being an atheist, I certainly don't believe in any kind of guiding force or God or deity or supernatural being. You might find that hard to believe. I don't know, but that is the way it is. That is what an atheist is. The second point I wanted to go over with you was you mentioned the part about the afterlife in your video, that everybody wants to know what happens to them in the afterlife, and you felt that people believed in heaven and or some place that they go when they die. And I have met, oddly enough, some people that do as atheists, but the vast majority do not. Pretty much once you remove the concept of the supernatural from your realm of thought, you pretty much preclude that when you die, and that's it. Like, you're over. Death is the end, and you no longer exist. Your consciousness is gone. All your ideas, thoughts, feelings, loves, joys, cries, fears, etc. That's all just annihilated. It disappears. Well, not really disappears, but you know, the matter doesn't disappear, but you don't have a consciousness, you don't care anymore. Which, for some people, especially a lot of people who are religious, is really hard to take. It's actually one of the main reasons, in my opinion, I believe, that people cling to religions, is that death is a kind of a scary prospect. And just the thought that everything that you work for in this life, all you strive to accomplish, really means nothing as far as the universe is concerned, is a frightening thought. It's an easy way to lead yourself right into nihilism too, where, you know, nothing has meaning, and you know, it's kind of a scary proposition. I'm not a nihilist, by the way. I'm gonna pause this. Alright, upon watching your video, there was another point I want to discuss with you, and this is just my own personal preference, or just advice to you. Take it for what it's worth, but I noticed that you apologized to a lot of people about possibly offending them, and, you know, you didn't mean to offend somebody. On YouTube, and especially when you're talking about something as volatile as religion and what people believe, pretty much anything you say is going to offend someone. So, I mean, my advice to you is that don't worry about offending people. Really, you shouldn't. I mean, don't go out of your way to just be evil towards people, but, I mean, it's really impossible to not offend everybody. Somebody's gonna be offended. And you should always take into account that people choose to be offended, right? You don't offend them, they choose to become offended by what you say. So, I mean, it's nice and it's polite to apologize to them, but if you try to not offend everybody, you end up just having to be completely silent, because no matter what you have to say, it's gonna offend somebody.
Oh, and another thing I wanted to go over, and if I'm just assuming you don't know things that you do know, let me know. But I mean, you stated right off the bat you didn't really understand atheism. You don't know many atheists. I just wanted to give you a quick summary of a bunch of different positions you might run into, so that you understand what the terms mean, because you seem to be kind of confused about some of them. Like I said before, atheists do not believe in God or gods. There's also the position of agnosticism, and that is the position that it's a knowledge position, and it's basically the position that you cannot know whether or not there is or is not a God. So it's a position based on whether or not you can know. There's a lot of atheists that are agnostic. There's a lot of theists that are agnostic. It's not really its own position. some people argue back and forth about that. Another position is called deism, and deism is basically the belief in a higher power or some sort of supernatural being. He doesn't necessarily have to care about people or humanity. He doesn't have to have any specific attributes to him. Basically, he doesn't even have to have created the universe, honestly. So it's basically just the blanket belief in something greater than yourself, and that's the only definition beyond that. And then the big one is theism, which is a belief in a higher power, and then a belief that, you know, you can know and understand this higher power, and that he has specific traits and qualities, and he has specific things he wants you to do and demands of you, and things of that nature. That would be like your Abrahamic religions, you know, Christianity, Islam, and plus, you know, every other religion that has a deity, Hindu, all of those sorts of religions. Those are all considered to be theistic. Um, and once again, you'll run into a wide variety of people with different opinions on. I noticed towards the end you were talking about, you know, faith and science. Um, you run into a lot of different people with different views on that. Like, for instance, me, I really have no faith in really anything, and it really depends on how you define faith, which it can get complicated. You end up in a lot of word games when you start talking about these topics. One person will define faith as, you know, a blind belief in something, like you take it without evidence zero. Some people will think that faith involves some evidence, but not much. I mean, it gets really complicated, so you gotta kind of be clear about what you mean when you say something of that nature. Um, you know, um, I don't really have much more to say. I'll just throw out some advice that works. It works well for me, and I think maybe it might work well for you if you're gonna start making videos on YouTube and discussing these sorts of topics. And that's one: don't ever be afraid to be wrong. If you have a question, ask it. If you think something, state it. I mean, if you're wrong and you think you're wrong, admit it. And like I said, don't ever be afraid to say what you think. I mean, even if somebody thinks you're a total idiot, you know, who cares? It's just one other person's opinion. And you know, you may be right, or you know, you both might be convinced you're right, and you won't get anywhere. But you'll never find out if you don't ask, right? Or if you don't put it out there. Um, and like I said before, don't be afraid to offend people, because that's just impossible. If you're trying to not offend people, then you're gonna have a rough life. Let me tell you.
Alright, I've pretty much said everything I was intending to say. Go ahead and make a response if you would like, or just make text response, whatever. If you have any specific questions, you know, like why do you believe what you believe? You know, why are you an atheist? Do you know any other atheists? Whatever. I mean, just specific questions make it a lot easier on these types of videos. You know, like, you know, for example, if somebody was asking you about Catholicism, it'd be like, you know, what is you know, transmutation, and you know, what's with the doctrine of transmutation, and or you know, something along those, like, you know, what do you think about canonization, blah blah blah, questions like that. Just, you know, try to make it as specific as you can. It'll make it a lot easier when you get back and forth wishy-washy answers. Thank you for your time, and hope you have a good day. Thanks.